All right, let's dive right into this explainer where we completely demystify the 2026 Chinese apparel sourcing landscape. If you're hunting for that perfect specialized manufacturing partner, you already know the game has totally changed. So we're going to break down the latest data and sourcing intelligence to help you confidently navigate this shifting terrain and find a factory that perfectly aligns with your brand's vision.
This explainer is basically your roadmap. We're going to cover the 2026 apparel landscape, top factories by niche, vetting your supplier, the procurement workflow, and finally we'll navigate some sourcing FAQs. So let's just jump right in.
Section 1. The 2026 apparel landscape, moving beyond the sewing room.
You know, the old way of sourcing in China was literally just about pure volume, mass production, and of course, hunting for the absolute lowest price per unit. But the 2026 reality, it's a whole different ballgame. Finding a custom apparel manufacturer isn't just a race to the bottom anymore. We're talking about high-tech integration, it's about GRS, that's the Global Recycled Standard for Sustainability, and crucially, it's heavily focused on SOQR, which means Small Order Quick Response models. If you want to stay competitive, this is exactly what you need to be looking for.
Moving on to Section 2, top factories by niche and finding your specialized partner. Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer diversity in specializations and minimum order quantities, or MOQs, across these top players. It absolutely proves that the whole one-size-fits-all factory concept is completely dead, right? I mean, you've got Apparel focusing on sustainability with super low MOQs, all the way over to Dove and Garments, who require 500 pieces, but absolutely dominate in bulk uniforming. Let's actually break a few of these heavy hitters down and see what makes them tick.
Okay, let's look at Apparel, based out in Shenzhen. For those of you building sustainable lifestyle brands, or maybe you're heavy into Shopify and Amazon, their complete FPP, that's full production package capability, makes them a total powerhouse. They literally handle the whole shebang from sourcing the fabric all the way to the final packaging. Plus, they hold those crucial GOTS and GRS certifications, so you know for sure your contemporary streetwear or sustainable basics are being ethically manufactured. Honestly, going this route severely reduces overhead for you as the buyer.
Next up is Baroonwear. Now, if your niche demands high-performance gear, think cycling jerseys, yoga wear, or heavy-duty gym apparel, this is absolutely where you need to look. Operating out of the Guangdong textile clusters, they have the exact specialized machinery required for serious activewear. We're talking flat lock stitching, top-tier sublimation printers, and moisture-wicking fabric testers. They give you incredibly flexible customization options for those supercritical nylon and spandex ratios. Basically, they make sure you're actually hitting those rigorous squat-proof 2026 standards.
And then for all of our accessible luxury brands out there, we've got H in 4-Wing. If you're the kind of brand that prioritizes true craftsmanship and intricate details over pure speed, H and 4-Wing is the top-tier choice. They just excel at complex silhouettes, designer dresses, and handling incredibly delicate fabrics like silk and lace. But hey, definitely pay attention to that lead time, 35 to 50 days. Since their quality control process is so demanding, you really have to factor in longer production times compared to your standard basic garment factories.
All right, Section 3, vetting your supplier, and the 3 procurement pillars.
So, pillar number 1 comes down to this really vital question: capacity versus capability. Guys, this is a massive trap for new buyers. A factory might boast, hey, we have 500 sewing machines, and that's fantastic, but that's just their capacity. The real question is, do they have the specific laser cutting or ultrasonic welding machines that your complex outerwear design actually requires? That is their capability. A pro tip here: always request a machine list during your initial request for quotation phase just to verify they can physically make your product.
Moving to pillar number 2, which is what we call the small order myth. You got to beware of this one. You might find a manufacturer claiming they have a super low MOQ of, let's say, 50 pieces. But the hidden reality? The fabric mills they source from might require a minimum of 1,000 meters of dyed fabric. So if you're asking for a custom color but only want 50 pieces, you absolutely must demand transparency up front. If you don't, they're either going to force you to use generic stock fabric or they'll hit you with a massive unexpected surcharge for small batch dyeing. True transparency is really the hallmark of a reliable partner here.
And pillar number 3 is all about lead time realism. Thankfully, post-2025 logistics have really stabilized, and this timeline gives you a look at realistic, healthy lead times. Generally, you should expect about 7 to 12 days for the sampling phase. Then, roughly 25 to 40 days for bulk production, and remember that clock only starts after you approve the sample. Finally, tack on another 5 to 30 days for shipping, obviously depending on whether you're using sea or air freight. Internalizing this timeline is going to help you avoid those severe quality control nightmares that pop up when buyers try to force express production.
Okay, Section 4, the procurement workflow. We're going from RFQ all the way to onboarding. Let's carefully walk through this rigorous 4-step workflow, which is honestly designed to virtually eliminate your sourcing risk. Step 1 is your tech pack submission. Please, never just send an Instagram photo to a factory and hope for the best. You need a highly detailed bill of materials, proper size charts, and exact stitch specs. Moving on to Step 2, signing off on the PPS, or pre-production sample. Think of this as your golden sample, because once you sign off on it, it becomes the legal standard for your entire bulk order. Next is Step 3, and this is absolutely critical for any order over 10 grand, the inline inspection. You'll want to hire a third-party inspector to check the goods when production is exactly 30% complete. Catch mistakes early. Finally, Step 4 is the final random inspection. And this happens when 100% of the production is done, and at least 80% of it is packed up. If you stick strictly to this workflow, your risk is going to drop dramatically.
Lastly, Section 5, Navigating Sourcing FAQs. Here are a few pro tips for buyers. So, the first big question we get: why do quotes for the exact same design vary so wildly between factories? Well, when you see a quote that looks suspiciously low, it almost always means the factory is cutting some serious corners. They might be using a lower fabric weight, or GSM. They could be swapping in cheaper carded cotton instead of high-quality combed cotton. Or, and this is the most dangerous one, they're skipping vital shrinkage tests. That means your premium oversized tee suddenly turns into a crop top after its very first run in the washing machine. No thanks. Cheaper dyes that bleed all over the place are another common culprit. The takeaway here: don't just blindly chase the lowest number.
Next question: can you source directly from specific apparel clusters? Absolutely you can. If you're bypassing sourcing agents and going direct, targeting geographical clusters based on your specific niche is going to yield the most competent factories. For instance, if you're doing high fashion, you want to look at Guangzhou. Doing knitwear or sweaters, head straight to Dongguan. If your brand is focused on leather and fur, Haining is going to be your main hub. And for sportswear or those highly technical jackets, Guangzhou is exactly where you'll find the specialized infrastructure you need.
And we're going to end on probably the most crucial question of all, regarding intellectual property. Now, China has definitely improved its IP enforcement over the years, but the absolute gold standard best practice is having an NNN. That's a non-use, non-disclosure, non-circumvention agreement, and it needs to be valid specifically under Chinese law. So, before you casually email off your next meticulously crafted tech pack, ask yourself, have you actually protected your IP? Because at the end of the day, if you don't own your designs, do you really own your brand? Just some food for thought as you kick off your 2026 sourcing journey.